Hello folks, this is Kirill, the Backwoods Bohemian. Today I thought I'd try something a little bit different. Instead of giving you pictures and a series of instructions for a recipe, I thought I might walk you through it step by step on camera this time. As you can see, we've got a whole lot of greenery in front of us. We're in one of my raised beds. It's a bit early in the year yet, so I haven't sowed any of my vegetables in here. But as you can see, I've got a lovely crop of goosefoot coming up. Now, to most people, this is just a noxious weed that takes over your flower beds. I don't really believe in throwing away such a bounty. And so instead, I have modified one of my recipes for pesto to make use of this abundance. So to start with, we're going to need about 3 cups of this goosefoot. I like to trim mine off with just scissors, shears. If you look at one of the stalks, you can see it's got just a very small root system at this time, a few very small leaves, and it doesn't have much growth to it yet, which means that these leaves on top here are still going to be really tender. Now, if you notice, there's some dusty white stuff inside, and that can actually sour the flavor of your meal, so we'll be rinsing this off really well in a colander once we get it inside. But for now, we don't need any of this long stem. We just want this fresh green part. That way we don't end up with a bowl full of dirt. I found one of the easiest ways to do this. Since this is wild, I don't just have goosefoot. There's also wild clover coming up in here that might make our recipe taste funny. So I like to run my fingers through the weeds so that they're settled just underneath of that top set of heads. And then chop it off. And then whenever I get it up, I can check to make sure I've just got goosefoot. After you do this a few times, it gets to where you can do it much, much faster, especially if you're not trying to do it over a camera. And we're going to keep going until we've got a bowl full, and then I will meet you guys back in the kitchen. Okay folks, we're back with step 2 now. We've washed up 3 cups worth of our beautiful greens. They're still a little bit damp, but that's going to be okay for how we're working. Now, in order to make this, we're going to need some other ingredients, obviously. And I've pre-measured all of mine out. I will make sure to annotate which measurements you need so that you don't have to try to guess this, and they should also be in the description. I'm going to be making mine in a food processor because I'm a dirty, rotten, modern cheater. Because our greens have a little bit of a tart flavor to them, we want something that's got a very nice smooth base to help balance out the flavor. So in this case, rather than pine nuts, I'm actually going to be using sunflower seeds. We're going to put those in our food processor. The next thing to go in is going to be my I suppose it's not basil in this time, it's goosefoot. Next thing to go in will be our goosefoot, and we probably won't be able to get it all in on the first pulse. So we're just going to put in as much as we can really fit to still have room. I try not to go too high over the blades because I use a Ninja food processor and it doesn't actually pull as hard, so I just want to cover the blades. As you can see, we've still got a lot of greens left to go. Next up, we're going to add our garlic. This is 3 cloves worth of garlic that I've already chopped up. That, folks, we lost power there for a second. To return, we've got our nuts in the very bottom, our first set of leaves, and our garlic. And I've got the lid on already because I am ready to mix it up. There are some other ingredients to add, but I like to add 1 ingredient per handful until we're all the way through. I will be moving off camera though because it's terribly loud. Alrighty, we've run it through and we've pulsed it until everything is kind of mealy. We don't really want to get it to liquid yet since it's going to run through a few more times. Now we'll take the lid off. And then we will scrape it back down and add our next set of ingredients. We'll start with another couple handfuls then our next ingredient is, and this is not necessarily always in traditional pestos, but I find it really helps with these wild pestos, sun-dried tomatoes. These are oil-packed sun-dried tomatoes. You can use water, but I like the extra oil that they bring to the recipe. We have got Parmesan cheese. Some people save this for the end, but I really like mine blended in. We've 2 tablespoons of fresh ground Parmesan, and I'll just put that in right on top of the sun-dried tomatoes. We'll stick the lid on, give it another pulse. There we go. As you can see, it's got everything ground up really fine in there, and I love the color that the sun-dried tomato adds. The little flecks of red really help to set off the dish. The Parmesan has been ground up nice and small so that it will integrate really well into each bite. And of course, whenever we finish adding the pasta at the very end, we'll throw another little handful of Parmesan on, just for presentation's sake. Press that down. Now it's time for our last handful, and we won't get as much this time because obviously it's getting higher and higher as we go, and soon we won't be able to get any more in there before the blades are covered. Now we need to add our finishing ingredients. We will be adding about 1 tablespoon. You can use more, and I do with richer leaves, but with these tart leaves I like to use a little bit less. It helps to balance out the recipe. So I've got 1 tablespoon of fresh lemon juice in there. And then we have to add the oil, extra virgin olive oil here. We want to do about 1/3 to 1/2 cup of it total, but I like to do just a little bit at a time until it gets to being the consistency I want. So, okay, we're back again. I'm not exactly sure what's going on with the videos here, but we're going to try to power through this last one. Off screen in the downtime, I added the rest of the oil. Again, that's a total of 1/3 cup of your oil of choice, or you can mix oils if you so choose. And we've got our pesto out of the processor now. It's not, at the risk of the camera going on the fritz again, we're going to just rush through. So I don't have my round mixing bowl with me. We'll be using a bread pan so that you can see through. And we've got our pasta measured out. At our house, 1 serving of pasta is about 2 cups or so. And so I've cooked that portion. We have more pesto than we need for that portion, so we'll only select out what we think we want. And if you're not sure how much, just start with a little bit at a time, about 1 tablespoon at a time, until you get the kind of coverage you'd like to see on it. I prefer Alrighty, so that's more what I'd like to see. And we still have a good bit of the pesto left over, so I guess we'll be having crackers and dip tonight after all. Once you've got it mixed up the way you like, as I said, you can put it in the refrigerator to kind of blend and chill for a little while. You can also serve this warm, if you would prefer. Traditionally now, I would put it in the bowl that I've selected and garnish with an assortment of cheeses, usually Parmesan, nuts, and other small vegetables that I think would benefit the dish, especially to incorporate more of the nuts that I've used. If you have a salted meat, a salted cured meat such as pepperoni, really nicely cured ham, or bacon, now would be a really good time to slice that up really thin, or a prosciutto, and add that to the dish in little ribbons. Let's see, we garnished with more of the sesame seeds that we used in the recipe, and also some pumpkin seeds that I have on hand too. They're the unsalted pumpkin seeds, so They'll add a bit of crunch and a tiny bit of smooth flavor, but not a whole lot of extra salt to the dish. And there we are. That's our little backwoods pesto. I thank you guys for joining me, and I hope that you'll try this with your families too. Good night.